G-Man Boxing. Do you know what I mean? Every single live he donates. I see him on other lives donating. He's got the bag on it.
Alright, people, some news that came out over the last hour or so with regards Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn. Now, this week, I had actually planned on starting doing guests on lives just to preview this, as I did with Fury versus White, as I did with AJ Usyk. Now, planned on doing one tomorrow and Wednesday. But Chris Eubank Sr. has claimed that he's now pulled Eubank Jr. out of the fight with Conor Benn on October the 8th due to concerns about the 157-pound catch weight. Eubank Sr. said, and I quote, he said this to Dan Matthews at the Mail Sport, "My son's life cannot be put in danger. I've already lost one son. It cannot happen again." Quoted here from the Mail Sport, it says, Eubank Sr. made demands to pull Chris Eubank Jr. out of the Conor Benn fight while on a joint media call with Conor and Nigel. Nigel asked Eubank Sr., "So you're saying your son at 32 years old, this fight not happening?" Sr. replied, "Absolutely." So, interesting one. Chris Eubank Sr. is saying now that he's pulling his son out, but we've heard nothing from Chris Eubank Jr. Now, when I saw this news broke, there was a few things that went into my head. Obviously, the first one is Eubank Sr. more worried about the 157-pound weigh-in than Eubank Jr. is, because Eubank Jr. has said, look, he'd be drained, but it shouldn't be a problem. Now, Eubank Jr. in the past has operated from 160 to 168 and came back down to 160. So that implies to me that even at 160 originally, before he went to 168, he wasn't exactly struggling at the weight. So he's able to go to 168 where he was a lot less drained, and then back down to 160. So maybe Eubank Jr. is thinking, this is easy, I can do it. But Eubank Sr., in his career, we look at some of the explosive knockouts he had, but we forget he had a lot of dull fights where he had a very low work output. And one of the reasons for that is because Eubank Sr. really didn't do weight properly, especially when he was down at 160 or 168. He would starve himself for days on end. He really didn't do the weight very good at all. That was back in the early days when people started doing a lot of weight cutting at the time. So maybe he's looking at his own experience of the weight cut, the weight drain, and he's not wanting his son to go through that. He's worried about his son's health. Because look, I've said this before, I don't per se have an issue with catch weight fights as long as there's no title on the line. But I do have a big issue with rehydration clauses. Because at the end of the day, boxing is a very, very dangerous sport. The head is not meant to be hit. You are taking so much away from that fighter, depleting themselves and not being able to rehydrate properly. And at the end of the day, regardless whether there's a rehydration clause in there or not, it would take longer than 32 hours to be able to fully rehydrate, to get all that fluid back into the body and have that little protective layer around the brain. So you add a rehydration clause on that, you're taking even more risks. And I'm sure Eubank Sr. is factoring all that into the equation. And he's looking at his son. At the end of the day, he lost his son suddenly last year, Sebastian, RIP to him. And Eubank Jr., Senior, he may be a fighter, but at the end of the day, he's a father before anything else. And I don't have any kids yet. But if I ever did, I don't know how I'd be in that situation. If I feared for their safety, would I do the same? I don't know. The other part of me is, looking at this, because I think I've always been someone, when a situation arises, I always look at it and I just kind of, what do they make, straw man theories, or what way would it be? But I've always kind of looked and thought, okay, look, what's the rationale behind this? Could it mean something else? Could it mean this? And I guess part of me was thinking, and I said it actually on Elements with Hatman, could this potentially be Senior trying to sell this fight? Because I think I said on paper, we all know that this fight is not exactly a competitive fight. Eubank Senior or Junior should win this fight pretty damn straightforward. Even taking into account the rehydration clause, he should win this fight reasonably straightforward. Okay, he should. The hardcore fans know it. The casual fans, maybe not so much. And maybe they need some additional selling to think that this fight is actually really competitive, where they're looking at it and like, oh, Conor Benn moving up 2 weight divisions, but look how drained Eubank is, and his dad doesn't even want him to take this fight. Oh my god, this is going to be so competitive, kind of like that. I remember when Mayweather fought McGregor. Now, me, obviously I wasn't doing videos at the time, but I remember when they announced that fight, I was like, why? It's a mismatch. Why the hell are the money, obviously, but I was just like, what the hell? And they done a great job selling it, because so many people, not really in the hardcore, although saying that, I wasn't really watching as many YouTube videos at the time. I was mainly watching Hatman at the time, and Boxing Gossip and The Wire. But a lot of people did feel that fight was competitive just by the way they were selling it. They were comparing McGregor's power to Julian Jackson's, haha. But you also had Mayweather saying, oh, I don't feel the same as I used to. I'm older, and just to try and give it the element that this fight is really competitive. Like, there's a seriously good chance the upset can happen. And obviously we saw on Fight Night, Floyd Mayweather, in my opinion, carried McGregor for a couple of rounds. And then he could have took him out whenever he wanted, in my opinion, in that fight, just from what I've seen. Maybe it's going to be kind of similar. Obviously, it's a lot more competitive than that fight. But maybe they're trying to sell it to the fans, through the casual audience. Maybe get the bookies to shorten the odds and stuff like that. Maybe look at Conor Benn and think, okay, well, Eubank Sr. doesn't even want his son to take this fight. So, that proves how competitive this is. And that proves how worried they are about this fight. So, it could be that. It could be that. You got to take all these things into consideration. Do I think the fight will happen? Yes, I do. I genuinely do think the fight will happen. I think that Eubank Jr. will probably just say, look, I know my body, I know I can do this, and I know at the end of the day, even if I'm a bit drained, I can beat this guy. I'm sure that's what he's going to think. And we haven't heard anything from anyone. We haven't heard Wasserman, Eddie Hearn, anyone really come out and say, oh, there's danger of this fight not happening. And me, for one, I hope it happens. Obviously, I've flights booked to London for those few days. Hopefully do some media work at the fight. So obviously I don't want to have to cancel those flights, because there's no point me going to the UK if there's nothing to do, if you know what I mean. There's no point me going there if there's no fight, so I'd have to cancel them flights, which I don't really want to do. I haven't booked any accommodation yet, but that, again, I don't want to. I hope this fight happens, put it like that, for those reasons. So yeah, look, we're going to watch this space closely, and just basically see what happens. Me personally, from the outside looking in, I'd say this fight will happen. But it's interesting. It's interesting, these comments from Eubank Sr. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you could, smash the like button. I seen Billy Joe Saunders, actually. I'll get this quote here straight away. Having a go. He says, Ben is giving age, experience, and weight away. So if Eubank can't be disciplined to lose the extra few pounds, he should not have wasted everybody's time. Simple. Get the weight. He spelled weight wrong. Get the weight made and get in the ring and fight. So Billy Joe Saunders says. Conor Benn poking fun at him as well. Again, like, a part of me wonders, is this again just a bit of fight selling, judged by kind of how it's been seen? Like, again, we've heard nothing from Eubank Jr., so I'll wait and see where it goes there. But personally, I feel this fight happens. Let me know in the comment section your thoughts. I hope you enjoyed the video, people. If you could, smash the like button, hit subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. Leave your comments down below. For now, lads and lassies, I'll talk to you. Videos and all planned for tomorrow. Hopefully I'll still do a live stream tomorrow, regardless, with a guest, on Wednesday, regardless. But hopefully we're previewing it and not talking about, the fight's off, ain't that some you know what. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Hope you enjoyed it, people. For now, I'll talk to you. Peace.